Hi guys, I'm Zoe from Zoe's Fancy Cakes, and today I'm going to be doing a Bruno cake. So for this one, I printed off a template of his head. I tried to get Bruno's head a similar size to the cake that I had, which I think was a 8-inch cake. And I've just put it on a cake drum. It's a little bit bigger. I'm using a rectangular cake drum for this. I'm just going to cut out around my template in the cake. And we're just going to use it for guidelines for creating all the facial features. So like the edge of the face, the eye sockets, keep some of your offcuts for the nose. So I'm just trying to slice into my cake all over to kind of create little waves for the hair, so it's not all too flat by the time we cover it. Then I'm going to cover it in a layer of buttercream. Try and go as smooth as you can on the face. I'm not too worried about going smooth on the hair with the buttercream. So I'm going to cover this cake in fondant. Now I've started with a peach colour, the Renshaws peach colour, but I have now added a bit of brown to it because it wasn't quite the right shade that I wanted for his face. So I've cut it out roughly to the shape of his face, and then we're just going to press in to like the eye sockets, the corners of the mouth and around the nose. I'm going to swap for a slightly sharper tool, so the Dresden tool, to just mark it inside that mouth. I'm going to use my balling tool to push in the nostrils. And then we're going to go in a bit deeper with a Dresden tool, sort of the creases down the side of the mouth and then opening up the mouth. And just keep having a little look at your template. Now, I got the shape of the face wrong. I didn't quite get it the same as one in the picture. Even though I used it as a template, I still didn't quite get it right. But hopefully, you know, it looked okay. You could tell it was him at the end. So I've put in some eye bags as well, some dark lines under the eyes. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use some fondant for the body. Now, I know not everybody likes fondant, guys. I'm not a huge fan of actually eating fondant. I can eat it if it's fairly thin, but the bit on the body is mainly for decoration. So I'm going to use a dark brown fondant now for the hair as well. I'm going to try and cover one side of the hair first, and then we'll do the other one later. Try and press in between sort of all the indentations that you put in the cake earlier so that we get some different sort of depths within the hair, and then we're just putting lots of lines in there, lots of curved lines. Just going to texture the top part of his sort of body, and then we're just going to add some shading. I realised I should have put the other half of the hair on, but we'll shade now, it's fine. Now I did ask online you guys to guess who I was making when I was halfway through this. A couple of people said Jesus, but even more people said Joe Wicks the fitness coach, but it is Bruno we're making. But I can see why people guessed both of those. So I'm using edible powders now to shade the whole face, and I'm really darkening around the eyes and sort of under those eyes, and I'm going slightly pinker on the nose and the lips and the cheeks. But keep having a look at the picture of Bruno just for reference so you can see what areas should be a little bit darker. I've dusted dark inside the mouth as well, so I have gone dark inside the mouth with a little bit of pink and black powder. And then I've cut his teeth out using some white fondant. And then I've also got some white fondant that I've put into the eye sockets as well. I've tried my best to keep them a similar shape to the image that I was using. Let's just add a bit of shading on his outfit as well. I realize I still need to put the other half of his outfit in. I'm now going to paint on some facial hair for him, and I'm just using some loose powder color. So instead of the palette ones I had before, I've got some loose ones. This is a black fractal one I'm using. I'm going to also mix it into some shades of grey with a little bit of white. And we're just putting little flicks on with a little paintbrush just for his beard. So the powder that I've used for his facial hair, we've not put it on dry. I have used a rejuvenator spirit to mix with it to create a paint. You can also use clear alcohol dipping solution. You can even use lemon essence as well. Just makes a nicer paint than mixing it with water. So most of the colours on the face, I still need to add the pupils, but I'm just going to finish off the hair at the other side, covering it with my dark brown fondant, and then adding in hairlines. You can add some loose pieces of hair as well. So if you just roll out a little piece, we put some lines in, and then we just try and coil it up to create some loose curls. We can push those on to the face. Just gives it a little bit more of a 3D appearance, and you can overlap them over sort of the edge of the face a little bit as well. And I've got some light green that I'm just using a little round plunger cutter for. So we're going to cut 2 little circles. We're going to stick these in for the iris, and then I'm going to stick a tiny circle of black in the middle of each of those. Now I'm using an edible pen for going around the eyes. Just make sure everything you do use on your cake is edible, guys. all the powders and colors and everything that I use on this, they are food grade ones, so they are all edible. Just gonna add a bit of green to the other side of his body now so that he's not missing a shoulder. Let's just texture it quickly. It's just a little texture matte. This one's kind of got little squares on it, but I thought it made it look a little bit more fabricy. And then we're adding some colors. So I'm adding white, yellow, and dark green just to give it a bit more of a shaded look. And for the board, I'm gonna use an autumn gold, which is kind of like a mustardy yellow color. I've mixed it with a little bit of white, so it's a little bit marbled. And we're gonna cover the whole board with that fondant. Now I've got some leftover paste from the face, which I'm gonna sculpt a little hand with. Just trying to carefully get it on the edge of that board and cut in some fingers. Let's give the hand 5 minutes to firm up. I'll just add a few more loose curls to his head while I'm waiting. I'm gonna have to shade the hand as well because the skin tone looks different color to the face because it hasn't got any kind of shading on like the face has. And then let's make his little rat friend. So just taking a piece of gray paste and we're rolling it into a pretty basic shape. You can see I've actually pushed it on top of the piece of paper that had the image of Bruno and his rat friend on. And I'm just trying to now put in lines and shapes to make it match roughly with that piece of paper. And again, I'm gonna add some shading on there. So a bit of brown and black on the darker areas and a bit of white to the tummy and under the face to lighten it a little bit. I've rolled a little tail as well. Push in a hole for the eye to sit into. And then I've put 2 little teardrop shapes on for the ears. We're gonna dust those pink in the middle, little black pupil in the eye. Some little feet that also are gonna be dusted pink. And I'm just gonna sit that on his hand. Just make sure you sit it in the right place because I didn't actually give him a thumb. So we want to make sure that the rat covers up the thumb area so you can't tell he's missing his thumb. Now the rat's looking a bit smooth. So I'm just gonna paint on it in exactly the same way as we did when we put on his facial hair. And then let's just add a bit of shading or highlighted areas to his hair. So anywhere that you want to look a little bit lighter, we can add some white dust to. And I think he's got a few gray hairs showing as well. So we're gonna paint those on with wet paint. So that's the white loose powder that is mixed with that Rejuvenator Spirit again. I might have gone a little bit overboard with giving it gray hair. I'm gonna darken the eyes a little bit. Or change the color slightly. So I'm actually gonna put some brown pen just around the edge. And then with a slightly damp brush, I'm just gonna flick that in towards the pupil. I'm just darkening his eyes just with a piece of black fondant, just going around for those eyelashes, like so. Okay, so there he is in his normal color. And then I wanted to darken him up a little bit. If you want to see how I did that, I'm gonna show you that now. So first of all, I had to re-put in the green in the eyes because the brown made it the wrong color for when I wanted to do like the darker version of him. I wanted his green eyes to be a little bit brighter green and the pupils to be a tiny bit smaller. So I tried to dust with a pretty vibrant green onto the top parts of the hair and the hand and anywhere where a bit of sort of green lighting would go in there. So actually I put it on quite a lot of him really. Now I noticed on the pictures and also in the film, his eyes look a bit darker as well in those clips. So we're just darkening up around the eye area. And then I also darken the board. Now, guys, you don't have to darken the board like this, or if you want a darker board, you can just start with black fondant. But because I'd already done him in sort of daylight colors and in more normal colors, I felt like I needed to darken the board for this, but it was already iced. Okay, so let's just darken that beard area. I'm just using black powder now for that.
So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know which version of Bruno you preferred. The one before I painted him a bit darker or this darker version. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos and hopefully I'll see you soon.
If you liked the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. You can see more of my tutorials by clicking on the images on screen now. If you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button to stay up to date with my future tutorials. There are also links in the description box below where you can find me on Facebook, Instagram and more.